Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. You won't want to miss our next few episodes, featuring discussions with Spike Lee on BlacKkKlansman, Eugene Jarecki on The King, and Kate Davis and David Heilbronner on Say Her Name, The Life and Death of Sandra Bland. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Rawson Marshall Thurber's new action drama, Skyscraper. Reteaming with his Central Intelligence star, Dwayne Johnson, Mr. Thurber's film tells the story of Will Sawyer, a former FBI hostage rescue team leader and U.S. war veteran who now assesses security for skyscrapers. When the tallest building in the world is set ablaze, Will finds himself framed for the crime of arson. Now he must use all his skills to both clear his name and rescue his family who are trapped inside the burning structure. In addition to Skyscraper and Central Intelligence, Mr. Thurber's credits also include the feature films Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story, The Mysteries of Pittsburgh, and We're the Millers, the pilot episode of the series Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes on Television, and episodes of the series The Loop and Marry Me. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Thurber spoke with director Joe Carnahan about filming Skyscraper. During their discussion, Mr. Thurber talks about how he convinced Dwayne Johnson to be in the movie, navigating the summertime blockbuster landscape as a writer-director, and the opportunities opened up by setting the film in Hong Kong.
How about that? How about that quiet little indie drama? That was fantastic. I really love this film. I mean, I really dug it. How many people out there like this film? Quite a bit. I thought it was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Can I just call my mom real quick and you guys do it one more time into my phone?
So let's just leap right in here, brother.
Yeah.
My first question to you. How many writer-directors do we have out here tonight? There you go.
Right on.
Good.
Right on.
We are a small fraternity, a small yet powerful fraternity. Brother, talk about where the idea came from, and was it a pitch? Did you spec it? How did that process work?
Sure. I was finishing up Central Intelligence, which was my movie before this. It was a Kevin Hart, Dwayne Johnson action comedy. I was cutting it, and I don't think anybody can be sick of a movie more than its own director at that point.
It's true.
You're just like, anything, can I work on anything else? Right. And I went and saw Creed. I went and saw Ryan Coogler's Creed, and I loved it. I thought it was so great. It reminded me of how great Stallone is and was. And I went on this sort of Stallone binge. I watched all of his movies, like even Rhinestone, watched them all.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's dedication.
That's commitment to the Stallone canon right there.
And then I watched this Rennie Harlan picture called Cliffhanger, which is an early '90s film that I just loved then and I love now, and it had this great cold open where the hero fails. If you remember, right? So Stallone's like a Rocky Mountain Ranger, and he like goes out onto a wire over a ravine to save a girl who's literally a damsel in distress.
Michael Rooker's. It's Michael Rooker's.
That's right. Michael Rooker's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he tries to. She's falling, and he tries to hold on to her, and she says, "Don't drop me." And Stallone's big veiny arms are bulging, and her leather glove slips through his hand, and she falls to her death, and that's how the movie opens.
Right.
And it was so cool, and I was like, "Oh man, I haven't seen that in a long time." Where there's a cold open where the hero fails, and the narrative that follows is the journey of him sort of healing or exorcising that demon. He's haunted by this opening failure, and then the story that follows is the thing that redeems him or heals him. And I just thought that was a really cool thing that I hadn't seen done well in a while.
Right.
And so that was the very initial spark, and then as we were cutting, I would tinker with ideas, and I kept coming into my editor's room, Mike Sale, who's cutting Central and cut this movie with Julian Clark, who's fantastic, they both are. And I'd say, and then I think this happens, and then I think this happens, and just sort of piecing it together.
Oh, that's great.
And then I called up Dwayne, and I said, I got an idea. And he's like, what is it? And I pitched it to him. I'm skipping over a lot of parts. And he said, yeah, I love it, I'm in. And then we...
That was it? You just said...
Well, there's actually a longer story, but it's a little bit of a show and tell. So I called him up. I said, I've got an idea. I wrote it down. I said, I'm not going to pitch you on the phone. I'm just going to send you 5 pages on this, and you know,
was it actual script pages? Or did you
no, it
like
was you know, basically the hook, a lot of pictures, and kind of like where it goes from there. And I said, look, you don't even have to call me back if you don't, if you like it or if you don't like it. He's like, well, what if I don't call you back? What do you want me to do? I'm like, well, if you like it and you're in, just send me a picture of a pineapple. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, what if I don't like it? I'm just like, I don't know, just send me a picture of a dick. And he goes, that's so weird.
So for hours you're waiting, pineapple or dick.
It was not my best work, Joe. I was nervous. And I was talking to, and anyway, so he's like,
am I the only one that thinks that's really funny? I think that's really funny.
It was not my best work, everybody. And anyway, so he's like, well, that's really weird. Okay, bye. And so I sent him the 5 pages, and I didn't hear anything back. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days now, nothing. Right? And it's not unusual. He's a busy guy.
Sure.
But, I mean, it literally would have taken you 8.5 minutes to read it, right? And I'm like, Jesus. And then I get a text from Dwayne. And it's not a pineapple and it's not a dick, but it's like just like one of those text messages like, hey man, I had a chance to take a look at it, let me know when you have 5 minutes to wrap. Like totally even tone. And I showed it to my wife and she's like, I'm so sorry, honey. And I'm like, oh man. And then we finally connect later that day, and I call up, and Dwayne's like, hey. And as soon as I hear his voice, he's like, hey brother, hey. And I was like, oh shit. And he goes, look, I really appreciate you thinking of me for this. But I'm already developing an idea like this. I said at the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, and so it's a pass for me, brother. It's a pass, right? And then his baby mama was there with the baby, was crying. He's like, I gotta go, but it's a pass. Hang up. I'm like in a Vaughn's parking lot, at this point, like in my car. And Dwayne hangs up, and I'm sitting there, and my shoulders slump, and I'm just like, fuck. I thought that was a pretty good idea. Like, seems kind of like a layup, and of course he's already doing it. And then suddenly my phone buzzes. And Dwayne has a picture of himself holding a pineapple with a big middle finger. And he says, cool. I'm in.
Oh, that's great.
I started laughing. I didn't know he was that good of an actor. Like, I was like, hook, line, and sinker. And then he calls me up. I'm crying, laughing. And he's like, I loved it. He's like, he read it the moment I sent it to him. He knew he was in and let me stew for 4 days because he's an asshole.
Oh, wow.
So that's
That's one of the great trollings. That's really brilliant.
I'm not a fan. Not a fan of him.
And I got to imagine once you get him, it's probably really tough to get the movie set up.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's like, my advice for anybody out there who's going to go pitch is just, put Dwayne Johnson in it, in your pitch, attach him, and it really helps.
And your chances increase exponentially.
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly when you walk into pitch, right, like you have Dwayne attached, you're sort of born on third base and think you hit a triple. So we pitched it around town, pitched it to 10 different places, and I think 9 places bid on it, and the 10th place didn't bid because I think it was priced out of their range. And so essentially pitched it, sold it, wrote it, and we were in principal photography about 10 months after the pitch, not the script. So it was really, really fast. So from pitch to principal to movie in about a little less than 2 years, I think.
Wow. And so how long did it take from the time you pitched it, sold it, and you turned it in? I mean, the actual...
I think I did something I'd never done before for the writer-directors out there, which was super uncomfortable, was I was handing an axe to Dwayne and Beau Flynn, the producer.
Oh, wow.
Which I'd never done before and don't enjoy now and don't recommend to anybody. But it was just a function of, we had a window of time and we had to make sure that everybody was on board early enough so that we could go make the movie in that short amount of time. So... but fortunately, those acts were really good, I guess, and it just kind of marched forward.
So now, did you feel, again? This is kind of a two-pronged question. How important is it for you as a writer director? Because I know how I feel about this stuff. I'm just wildly insecure and wouldn't be comfortable directing. I can't do what Scorsese and Fincher and Spielberg can do, which is take someone's material and just turn it into masterful, cinema. How important is it for you to be the steward of your own work? Is it kind of necessary? Do you feel, I guess, a proprietary nature in that way?
That's a great question. And by the way, first of all, I should have said this right at the beginning. Thank you guys for coming out on a Saturday night to come see a movie that's been out for 3 weeks. It's very, very cool of you. So thank you. And then thank you, Joe Carnahan, a dear friend of mine, for schlepping all the way down here to do this.
That's my daughter who's whooping back there.
Yeah, right on. Well, so it's a great question, and I know you're a fantastic writer, director in your own right. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't know. I I would be lost if I didn't write the script. I mean, for me, and I don't know how it is for the folks out there, but for me, my first opportunity to direct the movie is in writing it.
Right.
And I don't know how other people write, but for me, basically I picture the scene in the movie screen on the inside of my forehead, and I write that down. So I picture how I'm going to shoot it, how essentially even the cutting pattern a little bit, and I try to write that as best I can. And then, and those first moments are critical. I don't know. I've done a little bit of episodic television directing for like Friends shows and stuff. My Friends shows, not Friends, but I'm lost most of the time. It's like you're just sort of blocking a scene and shooting a scene. There's not that's not really rocket
and did
surgery.
you feel because you had already sold, it was already set up. Did you feel any additional because you're essentially still writing it, but are you, because this kind of leads into my next question, you have the studio component at that point, right? Because you've ostensibly sold the story itself, and so you're now kind of fulfilling that obligation. Did you feel was it an intrusive process? Did you feel like, hey guys, back off and give me a little air here, give me some room, or was it more? Did you have Dwayne? Did you have those guys?
Sure. Well, I mean, when you have Dwayne kind of on your side of the seesaw, you're in good stead, right? You got the 800-pound gorilla sitting on your side, and it's kind of tough to move it. But the truth is, for better or worse, the movie that you saw here was the movie I wanted to make. And I got an incredible amount of support from Mary Parent at Legendary, everybody at Legendary, in fact. And even when we were selling the picture, selling it as a pitch, I mean, she pot committed like that. She's like, "Yeah, we're making the movie, and I'm not buying a script or a pitch. I'm making a movie.
That's
so
great.
Here you go." And everybody else sort of looked at their cards and fold. But yeah, no, Universal was incredibly supportive from the jump. I never felt meddled with.
Right.
The only time that gets a little funky, and I don't know if you've had this experience or anybody else out there, but there are not a lot of writer-directors who make movies that are at this budget level.
Sure.
Usually they're a little bit smaller and grittier or more indie stuff. And so a big, giant summertime commercial film that has a writer-director it's almost unheard of. There's, a few people who do it once a year.
Yeah.
Their
names are Chris Nolan, Jim Cameron.
Well, sure.
And,
and then if you want to talk about original stuff, there's almost nobody.
I sent him a marquee that my friend took a picture of in Skyscraper of the 14 films that were on this marquee. Was the only original film. It was Ant-Man. It was awesome. Unfriended 2. It was part 2 this, part 2 of that,
I know,
part 2 of that.
I told Dwayne, I'm like, we really fucked up with this one. We should have called it Skyscraper 2. That was a mistake.
Let's talk a little bit about cast and in your process, especially someone like Nev Campbell, who hasn't been around, who I adore.
Yeah,
is so good in the movie. In putting that cast together, it's actually again a two-part question, but like, as you assemble that cast and knowing again how, I always love when you hear these things, the good, the old days, it's like, we had 6-7 weeks rehearsal. We had this, that's just not the, you're getting an actor oftentimes just before you start, maybe if you get them a week before principal begins, it's like, that's a luxury. So in that, how did you bring this cast together, and how did you prepare them? Obviously, there's a lot of physical stuff, which Dwayne, I'm sure, is sure, but Nev Campbell does a lot of very physical stuff. And how much time did you have prior to, were you able to get rehearsal and have them spend time and so on and so forth?
Sure. You're exactly right on the rehearsal side. And this is my fifth movie, and I've had less and less rehearsal as the movies have gone. And I don't know if that's a larger trend, but it seems to me that stuff gets squeezed. And with Dwayne, he's very busy, so it's hard to get him for a block of time early. Nev was there, and she did a lot of training. She's an athlete. She's a former professional ballerina, actually, or semi-pro. So she's a great athlete off the jump, and Dwayne's pretty darn good. So is Pablo Schreiber, and we had a great stunt team. So a lot of people, there was more rehearsal for the physical side of stuff, the stunts and the fights, than there were for the sort of the scenes. But for me, there were hours carved out for rehearsal. But to me, when you're making a feature as opposed to directing a stage play, which I have only really done in college, is what I like to do with a rehearsal is just build rapport with the actors, but also talk about the scene itself. I go through all the scenes that we're in, and I say, look, if there's, I want to talk about the scene, but really what I want to do is, if you have any questions about what the scene is supposed to do, what you want in this scene,
right.
any questions about motivation or a line you don't like, or a thing or a turn you don't understand, or anything like that, let's have that conversation now. I can fix it because I'm also the writer, or we can address it. What I don't want is to have that conversation when the meter's running.
Yeah.
Right. And what
Which
I also
great.
yeah right. And what I also don't want is like, let's put it on its feet and let's because I'm not trying to capture a performance in rehearsal. I'm not trying to make any decisions performance-wise there. As long as we all understand what the intent of the scene is, what everybody wants in the scene.
Right.
I like to kind of keep that as fresh as I can to try to capture it in the in that rectangle.
That's pretty much exactly how I go about it.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that.
Right.
I like that approach. It's like, but also being able to make these changes. And I don't know how you feel about this. And again, how you feel about improving, and how you feel about once you do, once you are, on the day, how often will you be like, all right, let's try this. Let's throw that out and try this,
Almost always. I mean, I think this script is pretty close to what I wrote, but even the comedies that I've made, I would say those are people, and it was always such an interesting question, especially I think on comedies, straight comedies. You always get asked, the two questions that I always get asked, I don't know what you guys get asked when you do press, but what I always get asked, other than like, what's Dwayne Johnson like, is...
that was my next question.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to that.
He's awesome. I get asked two things. Like, one is, so who's a prankster on set? Was there any jokes on set? And I'm like, I was on a barbecue, like we're there to work. It's the strangest thing, like it's some sort of laugh riot. And then the other, like, what are you guys playing a lot of games and jokes? Like, no, we're trying to make our day. Like, what do you...
Who was running all the whoopee cushions?
Yeah,
like, not really anybody.
It's so strange. And then the other one is like, how much was improv, right? And I never quite understand what the intent of that question is, like, because it's funny, it can't be written, or I don't know. But the long way around is saying I actually love those moments where and what I've learned, in my brief time doing this is, that actors are, if they're not flat out smart, they're incredibly intuitive,
right?
And they're living in that character. And typically, if they have a feeling about something, if something feels off or they want to try something, I'm there to say yes. I'm there to say yes, and like,
absolutely,
let's try it.
Right.
Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
And guess who gets to decide what goes in?
Exactly.
I'm sitting here, right?
I know.
And what if it's great?
Right.
Right. And it's almost always good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, it makes no sense to me to go.
But that's the thing too. Is I always tell the actors, like, this has all the appearances of like an open democracy. It is a brutal dictatorship in the cutting room. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's not
sure.
going to survive. You can knock yourself out and do handstands all you want. If it doesn't service the
it's
end
on the
result.
floor.
And I think that's interesting because I think I have that. Again, you can look at something and go, "Wow, that sounded really great when I wrote it. It's not so great now." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or listen, or because you have to ultimately take the heat because you're the director. You pick this particular person, so if it's not working, it's on you.
100%. Well,
Right.
you're exactly right. You gotta wear it, right? I mean, the director gets like a quarterback on a football team. I think gets too much credit when you win and too much blame when you lose.
Right.
But it's you, right? You got to
Right.
make those. You got to make those choices. That's what you're getting. That's what you're there for.
Right.
But yeah, like I think I would be an incredibly like negligent director. If I were to go to an actor and go, no, sorry, just only what we wrote. No,
Sure.
no more. Thank you.
Now the Coens are my
Just the
heroes,
words.
and I hear
Thank
that
you.
they do that. That it's like it's word for word.
Let me be clear. Like, I really like what I write.
Yeah.
And I want that said. But that's not the end of it. Like, I'm like, we want to do it like this. If there's a word or a thing or a tense or something that's
Right.
fumbling, I'll tweak that. But as long as we get that, then I'm fine to do
Sure.
what we could do anything else.
Now, have you had an instance with a problematic actor where you
Joe,
one of the old which is one of my least favorite things in the world is to deal with that, with the pretense of, especially again if you've written it. I think and maybe again that's where my insecurity comes from. I just want to be able to say, I'll tell you exactly what it meant because that's the way I wrote it.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that, especially as the guy who's, that's my dialogue.
Not well.
Right.
I don't deal with it well. I just, I've had my share of challenging actors, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, and it's never easy. It's never easy. But I think that as a writer director, I think you have a particular superpower that directors for hire might not, which is you created the whole thing, right? You wrote it, you thought about it. Most times you've performed that scene by yourself as you're writing it. You've played both parts. You kind of know the tone or the rhythm or whatever. So I think you're better equipped to explain why you think this works, and here's why.
Right.
And maybe there is something you missed,
Right.
And sometimes a difficult, in finger quotes, actor can help you find that. And other times they're just assholes.
Yeah, or make you want to put their head through sheetrock.
There's that
also
too.
Yeah.
There's that too. But mostly, I try to go. If we completely see something differently, I'll typically say, okay, let's try it that way.
Let's try it. Right.
Let's try it.
Right.
No
harm.
No, and then try it once, try it twice, help them get it out of their system, and then go, okay, I think that's great. Can we try one like this? And usually they'll go, great, like that. And if not, then you have much bigger problems.
Yeah.
That can't really be fixed.
No,
Yeah.
not
If
there
there's
in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's no trust at that point, geez.
Yeah,
You're in
bad
trouble.
shape.
Yeah.
You just had a gigantic weekend in China.
Yep.
Let's talk about this for a moment, because unlike years past, China has really become this kind of alternate, almost antithetical kind of way that we measure box office now. They've become this gigantic global presence. How much did you think about that when you were writing Skyscraper? That kind of cross-pollination of Chinese, what that could be, what could they mean for the movie? And then secondarily, because I've been through this process, was the censor dealing with the People's Army? Was that like its own? What kind of difficulties did that present? Because I got to imagine that makes some of the stuff you deal with from studio executives look like like a kiddie scissor class.
I gotta say, man, I'm so happy to be back here in Los Angeles getting these questions, because I did press for two solid weeks, and it's just great to actually talk about the movie and talk about the process with people who know, and people who, a person who's done it many times. So thank you for the question. So from the jump, it was always set in Hong Kong, always set in China, and that was certainly part of the pitch, that it's set in China. China's the second biggest film market in the world. Very soon will surpass the U.S. So it was not by happenstance at all.
Right.
It was part of the pitch, part of the battle plan going in, part of the strategy of this film, right? And thank God. But on the creative side, it was also about, I've always loved Hong Kong. It's a really rich city if you haven't been.
John Woo movies. I mean, come on,
man, come on.
give me a break.
So I've always wanted to go there, and we didn't. We shot in Vancouver. So there you go. But
Vancouver's a great city.
Yeah.
Vancouver's a great city.
Vancouver. But also, so I wanted to, there's only a handful of cities that you would believably build the tallest building in the world. Hong Kong is certainly one of them.
Right.
And then I wanted to isolate Dwayne's character, Will Sawyer, even further by language. So I wanted to put him in a place where he didn't speak the tongue and couldn't kind of figure it out. And so, fugitive style, like he couldn't stop and ask for help or explain himself.
Right.
And I thought, Hong Kong's one of those places. Less so, certainly, than Shanghai or Beijing. But so that's why Hong Kong. And then the part on the censorship, that was really interesting because, it wasn't too onerous. The one part where I think it really did affect the film is with the villain, because in early drafts the villain was basically a triad gangster, right? And it was a little more interesting in terms of Chin Han, who plays Zhao Longji, the billionaire, was connected into this organization and kind of complicit in what was going on, a little bit dirtier than what he ended up.
Right.
And that wasn't going to pass muster with the Chinese censors. So as we moved, I had to keep kind of adjusting the villain. and I don't think I ever really got it to the place that
I did quite like the idea that he was doing this kind of reverse blackmail. I thought that was kind of.
Oh,
thanks. I think Hitchcock would have been very, very pleased with that, dude.
Yeah, it was actually cooler in earlier drafts, but it comes from sort of a Donald Trump story. I don't know if you guys want to hear one. Okay.
Oh, we love Donald Trump.
Yeah. This might not be the right person to talk.
No, dude. Oh, no.
This is apolitical, but I don't think I've ever told this story publicly before. So you're welcome, DJ Podcast. So a few years ago, I was hired to write a movie that was called, at the time, Trump Heist. And became Tower Heist with Ben Stiller and Eddie Murphy. But at the time, it was Trump Heist. And so I went to, I was doing my research, and it was just a heist picture about a bunch of kind of workers who had to steal something from Trump. And I went to Trump Tower, and I spent about 4 hours with Donald Trump. Couldn't have been nicer. Definitely a weird guy, but not, but super charming and, happy in his empire, and, his desk was a mess and there's no computer, and he took us all around, up and down and everywhere, and in his whole place. And then he brought us up to his home, his penthouse, 2-story at the top of the Trump Tower, and it looks sort of like a
tenement, just a simple.
No, I mean it sort of looks like
hot
if
water heater and
like if Elton John fucked Liberace. It's like gold everything. And just sort of proof positive that money cannot buy taste, right? And I'm just like, Jesus. And we're there, and and it's all, met Ivanka, met everybody. Everyone was super nice. And then and we're just about to end, and the director asked Donald right before we end. He said, what would somebody like you keep in his safe? And Trump stops, and he turns and he looks at the director and he looks at me, and he says, recordings of conversations I've had. And then he turns and walks off, and the director goes, write that down. And I just went, shh. 100% true.
Wow.
I was standing right there.
Is that not coming back to haunt him right now?
So at any rate, and that was part of my pitch. But when I think when I sort of semi-told that story.
Was Michael Cohen directing this film?
No. I know, it's all too weird, right? So at any rate, but the idea of, I didn't want in the safe to have anything that, I didn't want gold or diamonds or money or any of that stuff, because we all know you can't make an audience care about that. They don't care about the fate of the world. All they care about at the end, the only thing you can make an audience care about in your third act is, or anywhere really, is a character they care about. That's it. That's why so many films end with like somebody being held hostage, case in point.
Right. Right.
Your favorite character, on the train tracks. Yeah. Right. So at any rate, in earlier drafts, it was what was in that safe was even more sort of damning. It was mutually assured destruction, both to Zhao and to the Triad organization, and he was going to bring everything down, and that was a little too muddy for the censorship bureau, and and this is an expensive film, and it had to get a great release date in China, and that's the cost of doing business at this level. And so I did my best to write the best version of the villain I could, given those, what are relatively mild constraints.
Right.
And I don't think I quite got there, but next time.
But I think, but did you feel that it was? I mean, is that really any different from getting, notes from a junior executive that you want to go, these are the worst ideas I've ever heard? You know what I mean? Is it that far off?
It's the only difference is, when you get notes from a junior executive or just poor notes, you can not do them. You can have people help you not do them. When it comes to the People's Republic, it's kind of like, gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
What color is
We'll
the
get
wall?
right on
Over
that.
Here? Yep. Right over here.
Got the dry erase board right here,
okay.
guys. Ready to go.
Yeah. So that's there's no you can't appeal. There's no conversation.
Right.
So so that's life in the NFL.
Right. As we're wrapping it up here, let me ask you a little bit about, if you can talk about, let me ask you about Red Notice.
Oh, sure.
What you're doing next.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, unless you're going to go do a little $2 million.
It's so funny. I thought about that. Like after this, I'm like, wouldn't it be nice just to go do a tiny little thing? Like I'm going to call Jason Blum and just go, hey, I'll do,
Right.
No, I'm actually writing a Red Notice right now, which is the next thing. It's
Oh, is this something, again, you've already set up?
Yeah. So it's a pitch. It's an idea I came up with while we were shooting Skyscraper. And I pitched it to Dwayne. We went out to dinner and said, "Here's this idea I've got," and he loved it. And he was like, "I'm in." And then we went and took it around in February.
You split a pineapple, and that was
no. There's no pineapple this time. Thank God. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I told you guys that. I should have kept my mouth shut.
I still like the Elton John Liberace reference.
I know.
I'm stealing
and then
that.
the Trump story, which I've literally never told. I can't believe I did that.
It's a perfect crowd to tell it.
I shouldn't have had a drink before this. At any rate, so yeah, it was a pitch. It's an international heist pitch, international heist picture rather, and it stars Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and a third actor yet to be named. But we're very, very excited. So it's like a big three-hander kind of. Ocean's 11, True Lies, with a little Thomas Crown Affair thrown in for good measure.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good pitch.
And is it the same group? Is it Universal Legendary?
Boflin's producing, Dwayne's producing, I'm writing, directing, and I think producing. So we took it out like we did with Skyscraper, and it was a bit of a knife fight, and it ended up we ended up selling to Universal, and so they're making it, and we're really excited about it. And I just started writing, and I'm sure there are writers here, and I don't know how you feel about this, Joe, but for me, there's nothing sweeter than writing the first 30 pages of a first draft of a script.
Oh yeah,
where you've been thinking about it for a long time, and there are no problems yet. You haven't hit page 60 and went, oh shit, what about?
Yeah. When you have to go back, dig back into that first 30 and go, I got to change it. Yeah, absolutely.
None of that. No one's telling you can't afford anything. No Chinese censors yet.
You're not slashing giant action sequences out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, none of that. And you're just laying track down as fast as you can lay it down because it's all right there and it's all potential and all possible.
That's fantastic.
So I'm really enjoying that part of it. And yeah, so that we start shooting June 1st in London, and it's all throughout Western Europe.
Oh, that's great, man.
And the Mediterranean, and very, very excited about it. And I guess that means hopefully, with any luck, I'll be sitting here in 2 years' time.
Well, I'll be here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed Skyscraper as much as I did.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Rawson Marshall Thurber, my good friend.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for coming out.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please like, share, and leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.